So, are we all sitting comfortably?
Yes.
Marvelous. Then I shall begin. Once upon a time, there was a village by the edge of a great forest and along the side of a tall mountain. And the chief of this village did everything that he could to make sure that everybody in the village was happy. From the oldest to the youngest, even down to the insects and the animals that lived in the village as well. And on the particular night that I'm going to tell you about, the chief was lying in his bed and the moon was bright in the sky and he was just drifting off to sleep when all of a sudden Gecko started making a noise outside of his window. And I don't know if you've ever heard a gecko before. They make an absolutely fabulous noise. It's a bit like a squeaky dog toy. Geckos go, gecko, gecko, gecko. It's very funny and it is impossible to sleep through. Chief lay in his bed. Gecko sat on the windowsill going, gecko, gecko, gecko. And after a while, Chief finally sat up in bed and said, Gecko, what is the matter? I am trying to sleep. And Gecko said, well, I can't sleep either. And the chief said, well, it's my job to help people. Maybe I can help you. What's the problem? Why can't you sleep, Gecko? And Gecko said, it's the glow bugs. They keep blinking their lights on and off and on and off and on and off all night long. And so I can't sleep. Gecko, Gecko. Well, Chief decided that he would try and help Gecko because he knew what it was like to have a disturbed night's sleep. He made his way out of his house and down onto the road where the glow bugs were indeed blinking their lights on and off and on and off and on and off. And the chief bent down and he said to the glow bugs, please, could you stop blinking your lights on and off because you're keeping Gecko awake and he is keeping me awake. And the glow bug said, oh, we're terribly sorry, boss, but we have to keep our lights blinking on and off and on and off and on and off because you see, the dung beetles are rolling great big piles of dung across the road right now, and we wouldn't want anybody to step on them. It's health and safety, boss. And the chief said, okay, very well. I shall go and speak to the dung beetles. So he went beyond the line of the glow bugs blinking their lights on and off and on and off to speak to the dung beetles who were rolling great big piles of dung from one side of the road to the other. And the chief said, dung beetles, please, would you stop rolling this dung across the road so the fireflies can turn off their lights, so that Gecko can stop making a noise, so that I can go to sleep? And the dung beetle said, oh no, terribly sorry, chief, terribly sorry. We have to keep rolling this dung out of the road because you see Buffalo keeps coming by and he keeps leaving these terrible pats all across the road. So we're gathering them up and we're getting them away to somewhere where people won't tread in them, boss. So Chief had to think and he went, I will need to go and speak to Buffalo. Off he went across the village to where Buffalo was grazing in a field. And Chief said, Buffalo, would you please stop leaving your pats on the road so that the dung beetles don't need to roll the dung across, so that the fireflies don't need to keep blinking on and off and on and off, so that Gecko will shut up so I can get some sleep. And Buffalo said, oh, boss, I'd love to, but you see, there's great big holes that have been left in the road, and I'm coming down that road and leaving my pats behind to fill those holes back up. If I don't do that, boss, you're gonna have massive holes in the road. No one will be able to go on those. You don't want that now, do you, boss? And Chief went, fine. Who is leaving the holes in the road? Oh, well, boss, that would be the rain. So Chief decided he would have to go and speak to the rain. He climbed all the way up the side of the tall mountain until he was at the very top. And he spoke up to the clouds and he said, rain, Rain, please, will you stop washing holes in the road so that Buffalo doesn't have to leave his pats in them, so the dung beetles don't have to keep moving the dung, so that the fireflies can stop blinking on and off and on and off, so that Gecko will shut up and I can have some sleep. And the rain said, "Oh, Chief, I would love to stop leaving these holes in the road, but you see, they serve such an important purpose. These holes in the road get filled with the rainwater, and then these puddles are where the mosquitoes live. It's where they lay their larvae, and it's where they start their lives. If I stop making the holes in the road, there will be no more mosquitoes." And Chief thought about this. He said, "Well, I don't like mosquitoes. Nobody in the village likes mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are just a pain." And he said, "Rain, I think we can do without mosquitoes in this village." And so Rain agreed that she would stop washing puddles in the road. And as there were no more puddles and no more holes in the road, Buffalo didn't have to walk down and leave his pats on the road. The dung beetles didn't have to roll the dung anymore. The fireflies could stop blinking on and off and on and off. And Gecko could finally get some sleep, which meant that the chief could get some sleep as well, glad of a good night's work done. And everything was good and fine until the next night, when Chief was just snuggling down in his bed, ready for a proper full night's sleep this time, as last night it had been disrupted, when all of a sudden he heard a familiar sound at his windowsill. "Gecko, Gecko, Gecko." And Chief sat up in bed. "Gecko, what is it? I have stopped the fireflies from blinking on and off. You do not know what I had to do to get that done. Why can't you sleep?" And Gecko said, "Now I'm hungry." And the chief said, "Fine, very well, I'm calm. It is my job to look after everybody in this village. I'm sure we can find you something to eat. Tell me, Gecko, what is it that you like to eat?" And Gecko looked up at the chief and he said, "Mosquitoes." And so the chief learned an important lesson that night, which is that you can please all of the people some of the time and some of the people all of the time, but you can never please a noisy gecko. Thank you very much.
Bravo, 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 bravo.